Good evening, everyone. My name is Philip, sometimes also known as Mother Sheep, and I'm here today to answer your questions. The first question is by JanKaszanka, who says, what goes into your creative process? What do you do before starting a project, and how do you work on your projects, etc.? I made some notes here, so I'm not completely stuck on these questions. Well, it always begins with an idea, and the very important thing is like, okay, let's take a song that I made recently. It always begins with an idea in my head. Usually, I don't know why, usually when I wake up, and I try to act on this idea immediately. If I can't act on it, acting on it immediately means recording something. Anything, even if it's just on your mobile phone, just get the idea somewhere where it's safe. And acting on it means make a sketch as soon as possible. Like the recent songs that I did, I just sat down in the morning, opened my laptop and opened the music program and tried to get a basic song structure based on the idea that I had. When the sketch is finished, it usually means that the idea is safe. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that the idea doesn't get lost anymore. Usually when an idea lingers too long in the atmosphere or whatever, then it gets lost and the project is, I don't know, it just dies. Slow and painful death. But if you have the sketch, then you are probably 99% safe. And usually what happens, at least to me, is that I listen to the sketch and then just, well, I force myself basically to just open the project and then start refining the sketch. And I keep thinking about it. Usually I don't have to remind myself to think about it. I don't know why, but when I have a sketch of a song in my head, it just stays in my head for the whole day and for the whole night and forever and ever until it is done. And what also really helps is sleeping on it. That means to really get a fresh perspective on your project. Usually the very next day you open the project again. It's really important to just open it, to tell yourself to open it. The rest happens by itself, but you have to force yourself to open it. And then you can finish it. Right, Cat? Right. So yes, I think, and the final very important one is to finish it. I know it sounds kind of simple, but finishing a project that you invested a lot of time in is very important. And remember, finished, not perfect. I know that sometimes perfectionism gets in the way and you want to keep refining it, and it's not healthy at all. Something I read recently was that by keeping on investing time in a project, you actually rid the next project of its time. So just finish something and then spend some time on the next one. It is waiting for you. I hope that answers your question. The next question is by Nyyet, and I think he says, how's it going? I'm fine, thank you. The next question, and they're probably not the most important question, but the questions I have been waiting for since the last Q&A session I did, is by Funnycreature, and he says, thank you for the personal invitation this time. You're welcome. I have a couple of questions for you, and I will answer them individually because they are quite long. So the first question is, What do you usually do when you feel stressed out and want to relax a bit? I'm not talking about vacations and such. I mean those little activities that you could enjoy at the end of a hard day, or how you might distract yourself from heavy thoughts while you're outside busy with something. I hope I understood this question correctly. I think it's, yeah, as you said, it's not going on a vacation. It's just something after a hard day, and what I like to do after a really hard day. What helps is playing games. Turning off your computer, okay, that sounds strange. I mean play games on a console. Consoles usually don't have multitasking features. If you play on your PC, I mean for me it's always this tempting distraction in the background of when I play games on the PC. So if you can play on a console or something that is really just focused on games, and turn off your phone is also very important. I usually don't turn it off, I just set it to silent, like no vibration, no notification, nothing, just put it away. And if you can't hear it, then that's good. And you can see it. Seeing your phone and the little LED that says, oh, it's a notification from I don't know what, that's not good. Sometimes also making music helps, in my case. The last one I did was Stillstand, yes. And I made that specifically to relax. So if you work on a super fast song, it's not relaxing at all, but making a really quiet song and just focusing on what you're feeling right now, at least it helps me, and just turn everything off, the rest of the world. This is something, the next thing is a little, not something everybody can do, but if I'm stressed out, I ask my wife for a hug. It also helps. The other thing is, especially for anxiety or stuff like that, you have to focus on breathing, like really try to breathe through your your belly. And of course try to relax each muscle individually, like focus on each muscle and notice where there is tension in your body, and then just relax. This way, I hope this answers your question. The second question by Funnycreature is: as time goes by, I begin to notice that it's harder for me to find new music that would make me fall in love with it. I guess I'm just getting old. Have you found any artists recently that you could call absolutely astonishing? I know exactly what you mean. Like in my teenage years, I used to adore and almost I don't know what the word is right now, but anyway, I really had a crush on these people, like Marilyn Manson and Nine Inch Nails and Peck and whatever. And I think the current term for it is stand something. But yeah, I know what you mean, but I still find people that I find astonishing nowadays. And some examples are Peter Gundry and Lorn, Lorn, and Chipsel. Chipsel is a chiptune artist who made music for the new game that's out now. It's called Dicey Dungeons. It's very good. And recently, well, that was last year, but I still wrote it down. What really inspired me was The Weeknd. The Weeknd, the lyrics really, I don't know, they really suck. I wish he had different lyrics, but from a musical perspective, some of this stuff is really awesome. Like the songs he did with Daft Punk, that's some really good stuff. I also really like stuff by Ed Sheeran. And even things like Lindsay Sterling, for example, I mean, she's a hell of a player. The thing I want to mention is that you always have to be open to be amazed. Like, when I mention Lindsay Sterling, I'm always afraid that someone is like, oh, what's Lindsay Sterling? How can you listen to that? And I'm like, it's good. I like it. So always be open to everything and just follow wherever you feel like. I hope that answers your question. The third question with Funnycreature is, I'm really sorry for mentioning job stuff, but I guess you're the perfect person to ask this. I'm about to try becoming a trainee, junior front-end developer, web developer. Can you give me, can you give a noob an advice or two, maybe how to impress my interviewers, or what perspective technology I should concentrate on? So for web development, I can definitely recommend to look into Node.js, Vue.js, Webpack, and most importantly, what's really in right now is TypeScript. You should definitely check out TypeScript. You should also know that there are new JavaScript versions every year now released, and you have to stay on top of the new features like service workers and error functions and stuff like that. I really recommend the YouTube Chrome developer channel. They usually have some really good videos about this stuff, so yeah, just check all this out. Also important is, of course, CSS3, especially stuff like grids and flex. Again, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, and that's the end of Funnycreature's question, and he says in the end, thank you in advance, and sorry if my English got worse. I don't practice in writing, speaking, and us. It's perfectly fine. Really. The next question is by Mathias Abrahamson. You might know this handsome man. He's called Lupus Rex on the internet. He says, when did you know your Halfquake universe had hit a big time recognition? The first time I really noticed it was when Halfquake Amen was featured in PC Action. That's a really huge German and Austrian gaming magazine back then. And why this was such a big thing, I really remember, because every store in Vienna, like every store in Austria, had a piece of this magazine, and I'm like walking through Vienna and I feel like I really felt like owning the world. It was also a bit of a dangerous moment because, yeah, I got a bit too full of myself, but I hope it got better in the last few years. I also hope that answers your question. The next question is by Emanuel, Handy. What is /are your more recent inspirations for your music and or art? I think the question at the top, the question before by Funnycreature, who said about finding new music and stuff, is kind of similar, but Handy asked about recent inspirations. So I wrote down the really recent ones that really ignited some fire in my brain. And the really recent ones are Beardy Man. You really have to check out Beardy Man. I don't know, there is some kind of thing going on with his political views or whatever, but I didn't know that when I found him, so just check out his YouTube channel. And the big thing about Beardy Man is there was a tour he was on where it said 1 album per hour, and basically what he does is he has like these tablets all around him. It's called Beardy Drum 3000, I think. And he improvises. All he does is improvise and loop his voice and beatbox and all that stuff. And it's so inspiring because he just takes an idea and runs with it, and usually that's not what you're accustomed to if you try to make something worthwhile. You always try to be at your 120% at your 200%, and you have to make every sound perfect. But no, Beardy Man comes along and he just has an idea and he runs with it and makes a song out of it, and that's really that was somehow liberating to discover that again in the past few months. Also, what really helped me personally was making a music track every month, because then I'm also forced to finish it, which is also very good. The other thing that is a very recent inspiration for art and for making games is the game Dicey Dungeons. That's just came out yesterday or 2 days ago, I think. And yeah, just really nice music, really nice art, and just a little bit of gameplay that, yeah, it's inspiring, it's cool. Check it out. Okay, that's it for all the questions. Thank you very much for sending them in. The last thing I wanted to talk about is, of course, as promised, Catty and Batty 2. I have like 50 or so videos lying around of the development. Just me recording my desktop while working on it. And I thought long about doing like a really long video about it. And I don't know, it just felt very boring. So I'm going to just show you a few things, maybe after this video, or I don't know, and just talk about it with my notes here. So Catty and Batty 2 was originally going to be a co-op tower defense game. When we initially thought about it, when we is me and my wife, of course, I'm creating this game for her, with her and for her. We wrote a big list of features at the beginning, like really big. We had like 6 tabs open in a Google Excel sheet, and just wrote everything that we wanted to have in a tower defense game. But tower defense games, yeah, they tend to be a little boring, I think. So yeah, that was the first problem. The second problem is, of course, all these features basically meant that we really soon hit the feature creep problem, which is if you're just thinking of features, then you're not getting anything done. And since it is called Spirit Guide, tower defense usually has you killing units, but in this game I wanted to just the players should be able to guide spirits back home. So each level would be a different section of the overall map, and you have to get them from one point of the map to the last one, and in between are all the stages. But there was a huge problem with the pathfinding. I did a lot of testing in Unity. Yeah, and I also thought about building different towers and so on, and yeah, everything, it just felt boring. So I think back in March or something, it was about 5 months after Halfway came out on Steam, which also made me feel a little tired towards game development. So I just had to take a little break anyway. But after I came back to Catty and Batty, I decided to just ignore everything and just try to make it fun. Just anything that feels fun to do co-op on the same map. And yeah, I decided to ignore everything that we planned and just said, okay, I want to make 30 maps, and each map should have a different mechanic or a different puzzle. So just like Halfquake, I guess. But everything should be, you know, kind of cute and casual. It should be co-op, which means you have two players on the screen all the time. The screen isn't moving, it's just one screen. And in theory, you can always do the map alone, but you know, doing it together is always more fun. There are certain maps that can only be done by two people, but I plan on adding switches, so you can, if you play it single player, you can switch through the characters. So yeah, and right now I have 9 maps done, so almost there, and I plan on, so that's already 9 different mechanics basically, and I want to remix them to get more out of them, or I don't know, add more difficulty. I don't want it to be too difficult, but just, you know, just have to be fun. Yeah, and of course, as I said earlier, at this stage I just can't focus on perfection. I just want to keep making content and come back to it later. Yes, I think that is it. Yeah. Anything else? No. I'm just going to stand here for a little bit. See you.